we have always had this underlying threat, despite the fact that we've had the agreement in place now for 25 years. It's understandable when one of the parties which is in government in Northern Ireland glorifies terrorism on a daily basis, names play parks after mass murderers, sings up the IRA songs at many of their functions, and they'd have encouraged many young people to get involved in this, and that makes it easy for those who wish to continue the terror campaign to get recruits, to justify what they're doing, because they say they're doing simply what the others did in the past, and that creates a situation that the security forces have to deal with.
Sinn Féin would say, of course, that none of those allegations are appropriate, but they're not here to say that. Well, the lack of government in Northern Ireland, is that not fuelling instability?
Well, you know, I think one has to remember that these periodic terrorist attacks occurred when the Assembly was working, functioning fully. So I don't think you can attribute it to the fact that...
We've had the concerns, the security concerns risen, haven't they?
We have, but we've had severe threats in the past. We've also had killings, attempted murders of policemen while the Assembly was sitting. Terrorists take opportunities.
And this is an opportunity for them.
Well, I think the big opportunity, of course, is that there will be a lot of international attention on Northern Ireland during the anniversary of the Belfast Agreement, and I've no doubt that they see that as an opportunity to raise the profile of their terror and to get publicity for it. So I think that I would put it down to the fact that, first of all, they get an easy supply of recruits when terrorism is glorified by Sinn Féin, and secondly, they get an opportunity for international attention at times such as we're approaching now with the anniversary of the agreement.
We've seen terrorism on both sides. Well, the lack of government, though, you must acknowledge that the instability at Stormont can cause problems.
Well, you know, as I say, whether the Assembly is up and running or whether it's not up and running, terrorists will always take the opportunity.
No, but it doesn't help, does it, that there's so much instability at Stormont?
Well, I mean, all I can say is that the instability at Stormont is caused by the fact that
But you guys won't go back?
No, caused by the fact that the government in Westminster has decided to allow the EU to impose foreign law on a part of the United Kingdom. That's caused the instability. We thought we were
I'm just looking at a poll, Sammy, recent poll suggesting that more people in Northern Ireland support the deal than don't support the deal. Are you not out of touch with your constituents?
It doesn't make it a good deal, and it doesn't change the facts.
It means that you're out of step.
It doesn't change the facts that the government...
So all of those people in that poll are wrong?
No.
And you're right?
No, what I'm saying is it doesn't change the fact that the government of the United Kingdom, which claims to be a unionist government, has decided to throw part of the United Kingdom into the arms of a foreign lawmaking body, and that causes instability. There's no doubt about it.
So the people in Northern Ireland don't agree?
Well, the people of Northern Ireland voted to remain within the United Kingdom. That's the widespread consent. Well, I doubt very much if the polls which you're talking about, if once people understand the full extent of what is in this betrayal, and don't forget it's unravelling every day. Only yesterday, the EU were telling us that we now have to have fixed border posts at 4 ports in Northern Ireland, manned by EU officials, approved under EU laws, and until we do that, they will not allow free trade between GB and Northern Ireland. Now, that is hardly a recipe for stability, where the government throws part of the United Kingdom to the wolves. And that's what it has done. And, you know, I know that there's been a lot of spin on the agreement, and of course that will influence people's decisions on it. But I think that once you dig behind it, you'll find that the majority of people, and certainly the majority within the unionist community, do not support it. And this is the thing about
When are you going to go back to power sharing?
This is the thing.
When are you going to go back to power sharing?
Well, this is the thing with the Belfast Agreement. The Belfast Agreement makes it quite clear that the status of Northern Ireland can only be changed with the consent of the people of Northern Ireland. No change can be made without their consent. The unionist population clearly do not support the Northern Ireland Protocol or the framework, and we will go back into Stormont when it is clear we do not have to implement the laws which are designed to destroy our position within the United Kingdom. Because even the government has admitted that the application of EU law in Northern Ireland creates divergence between Northern Ireland and the country to which we belong to. And no unionist is going to collaborate.
When are you going to
go
back to power sharing?
And we'll go back to power sharing when we have a situation where we're treated as fully as part of the United Kingdom, where we're not required to implement the laws of the EU, which diverges and take us away from and drive a wedge between ourselves and the country to which we belong. No self-respecting unionists should be expected to collaborate in their own destruction.
That's not going to happen anytime soon, is it?
Well, that's up to the government. There are alternatives.
They just had a vote in Parliament last week. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, the government has got a choice, of course. It can decide to continue down this route of disintegrating the United Kingdom, of driving a wedge between one part of the country which it governs and another part of the country, or it can decide to look for solutions which are workable. There are solutions which are workable. In fact, the government itself put forward ideas in its own protocol bill about dual regulation. It put forward arguments in its own command paper about mutual enforcement of rules in the EU and in the UK, both of which they said would work and which would ensure the security of the EU single market while ensuring the integrity of the United Kingdom. It hasn't pursued those. And if we have to use the leverage of not collaborating in our own destruction, then we will continue to do so.
So you think this could last for months, years more?
Well, I can't anticipate when the government...
Well, you can, because the government's not going to move on it.
Well, they said they wouldn't move again. Don't forget, a year and a half ago, indeed, up until about 6 months ago, they said they wouldn't move on the protocol, and they did. So,
you know... It's a different Prime Minister now, Sammy.
Well, and we don't know how long this Prime Minister is going to last either. But, you know, I think that the government will come to the realisation that it has to make a choice between either defending the United Kingdom or giving part of the United Kingdom.
Final question. What would you say to the people of Northern Ireland who are really struggling, some of them, as they see, because of the instability at Stormont, the infrastructure of Northern Ireland is disintegrating? Well,
I would say to them that if you look at the problems that you're now facing, waiting lists in the health service, a black hole in the budget, the difficulties which we have with financing schools, the cost of living crisis.
All of those.
They didn't occur and they didn't even start. In fact, they all originated and were all exacerbated when the Assembly was running and when we had a finance minister who wouldn't put through...
So you don't need an Assembly?
Who wouldn't put through... No, what I'm saying is, let's not pretend that the Assembly is a panacea for all of those ills. Indeed, some would argue, and indeed I think there's a lot of evidence to show that many of those ills have been caused by bad decisions that were made by the Assembly. So to say that get the Assembly up and running and suddenly all of these things will disappear is just false. Okay. These things occurred while the Assembly was running, and the important thing for me, looking into the future, is can I maintain the position of Northern Ireland within the United Kingdom, the 5th biggest nation in the world, and a nation which we should want to belong to because it's to our long-term advantage.